Pisces, this is your tarot reading for January. If you ask me, it looks a good spread. Of course, last month I felt that you'd learned something very important. And I think that's reflected in what I do perceive to be a good spread. It's saying that in the past you learned to set appropriate boundaries. And I think that's very important. Of course, it's been something of a roller coaster for you. And you're now needing to take a rest. And I think it's a well-earned rest and you should take it. The overall energy for the reading is that of multiple blessings, but particularly those sort of blessings connected to families and love. And that seems to be the direction that the universe is suggesting to all signs at the moment, which is why I've got great confidence in what I'm seeing for you. In the future, so after January, it's going to see you investing for the future. I think this isn't necessarily financial investment, but it could be. But it's you recognising that you need to be securing your future and doing something about it. Maybe even the future of your family, which is very strongly influenced in this reading, of course. Why are you sort of seemingly so in harmony with the new paradigm? It is because I think you've filled your heart full of love. You've got an understanding of your own emotions and indeed control of them, but also of others. And that's going to lead you to the outcome, which I do think is a good outcome. What would change the outcome is you maybe seeking advice from others, maybe seeking advice, even religious advice, as it were. And normally I see this as very positive, but I'm wondering if it is in these circumstances, because you really do feel, Pisces, to have got your act together. You know, I've taught at a major international business school. And of course, I don't go around telling everybody that, that's not my nature. But in Indonesia, almost on a daily basis, people give me advice on how to do business in Indonesia. Why don't you open up a cafe? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And to a certain degree, the truth is, I've looked at the business environment in Indonesia and realised that it's pretty rigged, and certainly against foreigners. And, what on earth would be the point of me earning a limited amount of money, but risking my capital for a limited amount of money that, as I say, it is stacked against you here. So, I don't think you should be taking that advice. That's my candid view. Now, I think what's so positive about this reading is this overall energy. It's an overall energy of multiple blessings, but in particular blessings related to love and blessings related to families. And this runs throughout the entire reading. So you are being blessed, and you're being blessed because I think last month you learned very important lessons. You've moved to the new paradigm and realised it's a paradigm of love. So you're doing all the right things now. You really are. And it gives me great confidence to see this. It really does. I'm not saying nothing's ever going to go wrong for you again, but if you keep in this energy, things will go very well for you. I said, last month you were somewhat challenged, but you also learned a lot from it. And what you learned was how to set appropriate boundaries. You know, it's being firm but fair. It's saying, I do have boundaries, and if you cross them, then there are repercussions. It's more about policing the boundaries than even the punishment, you know. If you can really sort of let it be known that you've got those boundaries, people don't tend to transgress them. I'm not very good at this, you know. People trample all over any boundaries I set. Maybe it's because I attract so many narcissists. So what I tend to do is I tend to set boundaries on my own behaviour. So, for example, you know, I find it so difficult to consume and purchase anything these days that I hardly consume anything, you know, and I'm really cutting my nose to spite my face. Whereas I think you've learnt the art of appropriate boundaries, and that's very important. Now, you know, learning lessons, learning to put up boundaries, because we learn, you know, we learn from adversity, don't we? And it is exhausting. Absolutely exhausting. So right now, you're taking a rest. And you know, that's the best thing you can do. We're going through unprecedented times of change. I think you've realised that the whole paradigm has changed and you've more or less grasped it. But these things need to bed in. And the best way for them bedding in is not to lie awake thinking about it, but to get a damn good rest. It'll be sorted out in your dreams. So this is what you need to do. The future is going to see you saving for the future. Is this money? Not necessarily. I've increasingly stopped using the word money because of these damn CBDCs, you know, that they're going to try and foist upon us even though there's no evidence whatsoever that people want them. You know, there's no evidence whatsoever that people would sooner use their mobile phones to spend money than a note in their pocket. You know, there's no evidence that this is what people are demanding. In fact, the exact opposite. So can we even talk about money in the future? I don't think we can, you know. So this is wealth, but it could be all sorts of wealth, you know. But you're certainly laying it down for the future. Very good thing. You know, I have a number of teak trees in the garden. And they're worth a fortune, but they take forever to grow, you know, and you just look at them and you think, well, one day I'll get some good money off that. I've also got mahogany trees, which used to be valuable, but no longer are. Why don't I cut them down? Well, you know, maybe fashions will change and they'll be worth money again. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about here, I think. The energy that leads to the outcome is the King of Cups. And we're getting a very, very strong steer from the universe that this January at least, but I think we're talking about the new paradigm, that this is what you should aspire to, and you clearly are. So what is it that you're aspiring to? It's a maturity about understanding your own feelings, understanding your own subconscious, but also those of others. Control of your feelings, control of your emotions, the ability to raise your vibrations when seemingly all around is falling apart. A very, very important skill to know. And you're getting a very strong steer that that's the right thing to be doing here. Now, what would change the outcome is you taking advice from others, probably more senior people, if you like, people with a degree of authority. We're probably talking of religion here. We're probably talking of you seeking advice from religious leaders, which I would often say is no bad thing. But you know, I've got a really strong feeling this is the wrong thing to be doing now. Because you've got it. You've understood it. You've understood what you need. And it's unlikely that even religious leaders have been able to grasp this, have been able to move onto this new paradigm. So I think this is exactly the wrong thing to do. No, have confidence in yourself. You do know what you're doing, but follow your heart rather than your head. Stick with your own counsel. Where does that lead you? Well, I think that leads you to a position of a degree of leadership, and maybe even a social entrepreneur. A mover and shaker that people come to because of, not only do they know you've grasped what is required in this paradigm, but you have the vision and foresight. No, I can't say the word. Foresight to be able to lead others, to be able to say, this is how we need to play this. This is what we need to do. You've seen through it. That's why I don't think you should be taking advice from others. You carry on. You're doing very well by yourself. And yeah, you're going to be able to lead others because you are this sort of action-orientated, entrepreneurial person. Wonderful, wonderful. We can summarise now. Pisces, I think this is a wonderful spread for you for January. You were somewhat tested last month, but I think you came out learning an awful lot. Not least, you learnt about setting appropriate boundaries, knowing not to be taken for a ride again. It's been exhausting and you deserve a rest, so for goodness sake, take it. Take a well-earned rest, and that will allow your mind to get back in balance through dreaming. It'll sort everything out for you. The overall theme, which I think is wonderful, is one of multiple blessings, but particularly blessings of love, particularly blessings concerning families. And I really do think that you've grasped that. You've grasped that the new paradigm is about love. You've grasped that the new paradigm is about control of your emotions, understanding your own emotions and those of others, and that really success in the future will be about control of emotions rather than self-interest and greed. So you really have grasped it. And I believe, well, no, before I say that, you've understood it. Be confident that you really have. Because I think it would be wrong to seek advice from others. And there is the potential here for you to maybe seek advice from religious leaders or look to religion for advice. And I think you've already got it. There's nothing to say that religious leaders have grasped the new paradigm. So why do you need to go to them, No, you've already got it. And if you stick with this love, this understanding, this control of your emotions, you're going to emerge as something of a leader. And I think a very practical sort of leader, the leader that actually maybe establishes social enterprises, but does things for and with the community, He's looked up to by the community because they do that. And I do see this in terms of investing in the future. And I'm not too certain, in fact I don't think it is financial investment. I think this is community investment. Investment in community resources. So a beautiful, beautiful reading if you ask me, Pisces. Beautiful.